the moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Mike Mjolnir Evans. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Are we live right now?
We are live right now.
We just
all of our new listeners. We got some new listeners this week.
Yes, if you have discovered us through Podcoin, thank you very much for listening and welcome.
Yeah, please. We hope you stay.
Yes, please. It looks
like there's... Take your coat off. Take your shoes off. Sit down.
Cozy up next to the fire.
Jeff, get a cup of coffee for our guest. Come on.
All right, I'm on it. You want teas and crumpets?
A cup of tea, a cookie, and you.
That's it. I'm leaving now.
So we've been leading up to what the reveal is of Star Wars Episode 9, what the reveal of the title is.
Yeah, I told you. Well, good. Were we surprised? Were we?
Well, thanks to you. No, we weren't surprised.
Oh, yeah, great.
No, but the title itself, though, is what I'm implying. So if anybody doesn't know, Star Wars Celebration Chicago is going on right now. And Friday, not only did we get a teaser trailer for Episode 9, but we also got a title reveal, which is The Rise of Skywalker.
Now, seeing as the only Skywalker we know of is dead, what does this mean for Rey?
I don't know. I feel it's like they've now turned this into the Passion of Christ Easter movie. He has risen.
Is Mel Gibson tied to this at all?
He could be. Crazy Mel Gibson, though. That'd be great to see crazy Mel Gibson as a Jedi Knight.
As like Dooku's descendant?
Well, so here it is. Are we tying it in as Rey as Skywalker? Is this what we're implying?
What else could it mean? What other Skywalker is there?
Anakin. I don't know. I think that you're going to see a Hayden Christensen cameo.
I hope not.
I'm just throwing that out there. I think that they brought back Billy D. Williams. They are using unused footage of Carrie Fisher. So she is in this movie. Mark Hamill is in this movie.
Now, are we going to have like the Rockettes, a ghostly Jedi Rockettes line kicking their
probably. Maybe a little Mace Windu. That'd be nice. I'd
like to see Qui-Gon again.
So I don't know. The trailer looks interesting. But again, you know, in this day and age, I think we all thought that The Last Jedi looked like fun.
Yeah, any trailer looks good.
And you have to wonder, is it all just, a tease where that scene doesn't even show up in the movie, which is just great. If anyone has not seen this trailer, I mean, obviously it doesn't really spoil anything, I don't think. If you want to go in not knowing anything, it's going to be hard. But there's this quick little scene with Rey, and she's on a desert planet because, we can't go anywhere in the Star Wars universe without there being deserts.
Could we assume that it's Tatooine?
I will not assume
my
that.
Assumption, yeah.
I'm assuming that she went back to her home planet waiting for her parents. That's my guess. But she's being gunned down, chased down by a TIE fighter, and she's running full force, and then, no pun intended, and then with lightsaber ignited, jumps over it. So she's like hardcore parkour.
Backflipping, jumping over it.
Did. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it was well received at the event itself. The name doesn't really do much for me. It does leave a lot of speculation.
Yeah. Lando looked good.
Lando, yeah.
And of course, with the swelling,
they didn't make him go on a diet, did they?
No, they did not. No. He's been at the pies.
Full-figured Lando.
Full figured.
So,
Yes.
of course, any trailer, though, with that Star Wars, that original score swelling in the background is going to make you emotional.
Oh, of course.
If Rey was looking through the phone book with that score in the background, it would make you emotional.
Nice. The new phone book is here. The new phone book is here.
Dun, 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 dun.
So that's the news coming out of Chicago. I think today we're actually going to get a Mandalorian behind the scenes because that's all filmed. That's wrapped. I think they filmed their 22 episodes or whatever, and that is dumping on Disney Plus.
And we got the rates. We now
know it is going to be what?
$6.99 a month.
$6.99.
I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
You're going to have to. There's no other way. Not only do you have Loki, Vision of Scarlet Witch, they've now announced that Hawkeye is getting his own show in development, and the Hulk, She-Hulk. You know, so now pair that up with the Andor Cassian Star Wars live action with the Ewoks and the Mandalorian. You might as well just name this channel the Avenging Star Warriors channel.
Now, hold up a second. Go back to She-Hulk. Is this going to be a live action She-Hulk or an animated?
No, I don't know. I guess Mark Ruffalo is associated with it. You know, when they put this in development, who knows? And it may be. Is every Avenger now getting his own show?
I hope so.
I second that.
I can't keep up.
Yes, you can.
But they did announce that Alan Tudyk is returning to play the robot, and I can't even tell you his name, from Rogue One. That will be in the Andor Cassian.
Mr. Snarky Snark. We can just call him that. Yeah.
Snarkity Snark. So there's a lot going on with this Disney Plus.
And the date, I think, is November something or other. November 19th.
Is that it? So I better start saving my money now. Yeah.
You know they're going to jack it up. 6 months in, it's going to suddenly,
absolutely.
the rates are going to raise.
And everyone's going to be talking about it, and I'll be like, I don't have it. It's like when I was a kid again, on not having HBO, you got to be on board.
Are they going to drop everything at once, or?
I don't think so. I think that'd be tough. Because here's the other thing too, right? So if The Mandalorian are they going to parse it out weekly, or are they just dumping the entire series like Netflix does? I don't see Disney doing that. I think they're going to go for maximum penetration.
But that's what the public is used to. I think they have to do that.
We demand it.
It's a binge culture.
We demand it. It is true. Although we just had to wait 2 years for Game of Thrones, and look how many people are frothing at the mouth for this tonight. One other news item, which is, here's Disney. We just talked about Disney. Little Mermaid. We are now going with that as a live action. And the rumor is that they hired Lea Michele, who we know from Glee, to play Ariel.
Really?
Yeah, which is not a bad choice because I absolutely loved her on Glee. She's got a fantastic voice. But my question is this. Isn't Ariel supposed to be like this precocious 16-year-old? And I actually had an argument with my family over this because I was like, this girl's like 30-something years old. Ariel's not that old. She's like a kid, right?
True, but again, she was playing a teenager when she was in her 20s, so...
I know, but that was 10 years ago. And now you're supposed to be playing...
have you seen photos of her recently? She doesn't look any different than when she was on Glee.
No? All right.
I'd buy it.
Okay. Oh, listen, I'm all in. If she's in clamshells, I am so there. And the only other thing, this is a little personal note, which if you listen to the show, I think it was probably in January. I couldn't find the actual episode that we discussed this. I had these two knuckleheads on my shoulders, Evil Angel and Happy Devil telling me do it, don't do it, as far as plunking down a ton of money for a Harrison Ford signature. And I did do it, and it came back in the mail. And so if you're curious, I'm going to be posting pictures on our Instagram and Facebook page, and you can see it. Mr. Harrison Ford signed my picture.
It is pretty impressive, I will admit. So go see it.
Instagram, it's TMI_podcast 2018. So
I'm glad you did it, Jeff.
I am very glad as well. We had talked about maybe doing a live reveal on the show, and I realized pretty quickly I couldn't do it without probably tearing up. And I just wasn't going to stand the ridicule.
But having said that, do you think it was a good idea, Mike?
It's too late. You did what?
I don't know.
And anybody who I share this with immediately looks at my wife and they're like, you let him do that? Dude, it was my money. I sold my comic book. I traded in my entire comic book collection for a pile of magic beans is basically what it comes down to. And I have been informed by
I hope you didn't get in the white van as well.
Mr. Ford.
Yeah.
Hey, little boy, you want some candy? So there you go. Yes, my Harrison Ford signed picture is back in my possession. It made it safely home, and I will share it with you folks.
Yeah.
Anything extra put in there?
Well, Beckett put in an actual authenticity with a photo of the signature, and there's a little sticker on the back of it. Beckett authenticated. There's at least a paper trail proving that that's his signature. I have the same thing for Carrie Fisher's because those were both mail-aways. Everybody else I met in person and signed. It's
too bad they didn't actually stick in a Polaroid of Harrison actually signing.
Well, there was the company did post some shots, but from my understanding, you're probably talking like 3,000 plus pieces that he signed, and that the chunk of change he was charging, he immediately announced that he'll be doing a second one. So I realized pretty quickly that I can make a lot of money for doing nothing.
Yeah, this is easy work. Yeah,
right,
I'll do that.
I don't have to be swinging from ropes anymore. The guy's 74 years old, so I gotta recoup my loss. I gotta start saving my money for this Disney Plus.
Put maybe 20 cents a week away, Jeff. By November, you'll have $7.
You know, if I didn't, you're right. Okay, we're good. News is out.
So before we begin our feature this week, before we go in on the main feature this week, I wanted to share a story with you. This is just a flight of fancy. You'll have to indulge me for a second. Imagine if, like an Independence Day type scenario, but the aliens that come to Earth are benevolent, they're kind, they want to help humanity. They're part of an ancient alien culture whose intellect is far superior to ours. Their technology is above and beyond anything that we have, and they're willing to help us end world hunger, to bring peace to the earth, to cure all diseases. And if one of these aliens came down, one of these silent, stoic figures, and I wanted to show him planet Earth's art, and what better to bring him to but to a movie? So we go in, and my alien friend sits down next to me. The movie starts, and what we're watching is Hellboy. The movie begins. Not 5 minutes in, my stoic, silent alien friend turns to me and says, "What the f*** is this?"
I'm pretty sure that's what the Christian missionaries did to the Amazon indigenous people. You stole my soul.
Did not enjoy Hellboy. I'm going to open up with that right now.
Review's over. I'm going to think that Mike's going to back this.
Oh, yes, I am.
I'm on your side! Sorry, my bad.
I will go as far to say, why did they make this?
Exactly.
That is a good question, although I feel that maybe I liked it a little bit more than you guys.
Really? You were the one. You weren't even on the fence about it. You didn't want to see it.
No, I didn't want to see it at all. And maybe because I had zero expectations. I will not say I didn't enjoy all of it. There were certain aspects of it. I was on board for the first third. Let's put it that way. They open the doors, and the first thing out of this movie is a flashback to King Arthur. And so right there, you were like, what the fuck? Because to me, that at least adhered a little more to the source material, which is the comic books that Mike Mignola tried to tie this character to a little more closely rooted in mythology. So I was like, all right, I'm now going to see something that I haven't seen in a Hellboy movie yet. And I absolutely adore the first Hellboy movie. The Golden Army, it's fun, but I really, really, really love the first one.
You see, I like the Golden Army better than the first one. And I love the first one.
Okay, all right. I will say my theater, and this plays largely into it, the theater was so loud. It was incredibly loud, and I'm constantly being yelled at by my family at home because I like to watch my movies. I like to be completely immersed. So to me, first of all, that was like, oh, this is cool. And the soundtrack was just over the top heavy metal. I mean, you open up with him in Tijuana, and it's a Scorpions Rock You Like a Hurricane, but it's a Spanish version. And it's just so loud. And I'm just like, all right, I'm in. And that went away really quick. But the soundtrack sold me on parts that maybe it shouldn't have sold me on.
You see, I thought the soundtrack added to the whole cheapness of the movie. Like, it didn't have its own identity. It was just using songs over and over and over again. Like they were building their CD that they could just sell.
Yeah, I mean, we can go through this movie, but there's just action sequences that don't really tie into each other at all. They're just sequences for the sake of sequences.
These scenes just careen into each other. Before we go into specific critiques of this movie, let's just give an overview. This is a reboot. This is not Hellboy 3. This is not continuing the story of the Ron Perlman, Guillermo del Toro series of Hellboy. So
they pushed really hard to try and, I mean, he was really out there trying to get this off the ground, the third one.
And I don't see why the studio wouldn't want to do it with the original star and the original director.
No, we're just going to reboot it. We're going to recast it. You can't fault the main actor, who is David Harbour.
Oi, I need some ID, love.
Are you serious?
I thought he did a serviceable job, but Ron Perlman ate up that character. He was so bombastic and funny. He has good delivery lines. This one, they're not funny. He's not funny. He's cool to look at. And that actually took me a little bit to kind of come to grips with the way he looks, because he's a lot more hellish, I guess. I don't know. He's a little rough around the edges, but yeah, you can't fault him, I don't think. I think
no, and I wouldn't either. He was probably the only bright spot of the movie that was just careening around him.
Yeah, and the script went nowhere. There's you said before, there's this whole big sequence. It served no purpose whatsoever except for being this big CG fight scene, and it was a bad CG fight scene with the giants, right?
Yeah.
But but on some level, because maybe the music I was into it. I was like, all right, I'm just going with this. Because it really was bad.
The setup is what you're already familiar with if you know the Hellboy series. Hellboy is already a member of the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. So he is one of their best agents that goes after, takes down any evil threats. And his father, his adopted father, played by Ian McShane in this version of the movie.
Do we know him outside of anything except for Deadwood?
Game of Thrones.
Is he on Game of Thrones?
Was he
playing Game of Thrones?
You're going to find out, Jim.
Oh, now I got to go back. But he was doing a pretty good job of channeling his inner John Hurt, who played the original character. I thought because he starts out with the voiceover, and he kind of sounds just like John Hurt.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So, I mean, and there are loose little, they actually go back into his origin a little bit, and they do pick up some of the characters that existed in the Ron Perlman version.
The big evil here, the heavy, is played by Mila Jovovich.
Yes,
who is back from the Resident Evil series, and she's back in the genre.
Blood Queen. Nimue,
I think that's her name.
Mew.
Of course, my favorite Mila performance is from The Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah.
Should do one of these days.
Oh, we should absolutely do it. It's my wife's favorite movie of all time.
Lilu from The Fifth Element.
We should have done this instead of
Multipass.
But you can tell that Mila, maybe back in her model days, she was on a 2-pack-a-day habit, so she's got that squeaky smoker's voice. It's like pretty soon, if she continues down this path, she's going to be like the bounty hunter that Leia's masquerading as in the beginning of Jedi.
Or Kathleen Turner.
Or Kathleen Turner, yes.
Yes.
We have Mila as this witch. And in the beginning, you get a flashback of the story. She's fighting King Arthur and Merlin. They defeat her, and they dismember her, and they scatter her body parts to the winds.
Which right there I had an issue with, because they cut her into 7 pieces. All right, stay with me. Head, torso, 2 arms, 2 legs. That's 6 pieces. What was the 7th? What was the 7th piece?
Does she have a tail that we don't know about?
I don't know.
Maybe it's her voice box.
No, because she was talking. Her severed head was talking.
So the story, if you want to call it this, we get this setup. Then flash forward, and Hellboy is at a lucha libre Mexican wrestling match, and
looking for his
old partner, right?
Who's disappeared 3 weeks ago, and that I had fun with. I thought it was a fun way to reintroduce the character.
You see, this was one of 2 scenes that I enjoyed in the movie. Right. We'll get to the other scene later, but it was a great little setup, especially when the guy turns into full vampire.
Right. Yeah.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah. No, I thought it was fun. I was like, all right. And the music, that was where the Rock You Like a Hurricane is playing, and it is just blasting. So I'm like, all right, I'm in.
So that scene really does nicely set up the new Hellboy. It's, as a way to introduce him to the audience, where he takes on this vampire old friend of his in the wrestling ring. As we get into the story, Hellboy's adopted father sends him off to England.
Osiris Club?
What's the pig guy's name? That's the whole catalyst of this story is the giant pig man.
Yeah, he was straight out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Gruagach, was that his name?
I don't even remember.
No. Who knows?
Like a 9-foot-tall talking pig. That's what he is. A 9-foot-tall talking boar, talking pig. I don't know. So
he was a boar. He was not an interesting character.
He was not.
I could care less about him.
He wants revenge on Hellboy, so he's the one that starts reassembling the Blood Queen. Not to destroy the world, but just to get his own petty personal revenge. Right. No. Yeah. He doesn't really work it out what's going to happen once the world is destroyed. What's going to happen? What's his role in this whole thing? But so he brings together the Blood Queen's parts, and that kind of sets the story in motion, where Hellboy's not really sure if he should join with the forces of evil or fight them. And
right,
that's
she gives him like a little 2-minute speech, and immediately he's like, "Hey, wait a minute, you're right. They do treat me like a monster. Maybe I should side with you.
Maybe I should marry you."
Right. All of a sudden, he's like questioning everything that is his upbringing.
And then there is a kind of a nice, quick scene where he envisions himself as this harbinger of doom with Excalibur.
Yeah, what you see in the trailers, and you're like, "Oh, here we go," and it just
with full-on horns and everything else.
Yeah, the flaming crown.
But if you see that in the trailer, that's exactly the scene you see in the movie. No more, no less. It's just like a flash forward.
Yeah, he's like, It's like when people, envision themselves as like president of the United States or something. Well, that's the one thing I used to hate about Lost, why I never liked the trailers. Because they'd always show you something, you're like, what? Wait, Jin can talk? He can speak English? And then you see next week it was like some dream sequence. And you're like, all right, I'm out. So yeah, that whole it was nice to look at and made absolutely no point in the movie.
The reason I didn't like it is because what I had mentioned before. It just seems to careen artlessly and scene into scene that don't really it doesn't make sense. Like, it's not edited well. It's whoever made this is not really used to making a movie. It's like,
so this director Neil Marshall. Now, what has he done previously? Mostly like TV work.
He did The Descent, which is a very good movie. It's with the climbers going underground. It's a horror movie.
There was definitely a decision made to make this as gory as possible within, I think, the rating system.
And they succeeded. It is quite gory.
It was on Evil Dead level and not the remake, the original, because some of it is goofy, but there's gratuitous gore that to me didn't need to be there, I guess.
No.
Here you are talking about Game of Thrones and the titillation, but this is just as titillating. How many ways can these monsters tear someone in half or rip them down the middle or lop their heads off or tear out their tongue? It just, it's all CG. It's all different.
And it's not like fun gore either, like you might get on The Walking Dead, and just have a reaction like, oh, and then laugh it off. But this is just distasteful. And
there was almost like a Walking Dead moment there where people were starting to come back or whatever. I don't know. But I will say that the one character, Baba Yaga, who was a one-eyed, that grizzly hag.
Yeah, that was the second scene I was going to talk about.
She was very well done. She was very disturbing to watch and interesting.
And it was all practical. She was not CG.
Yeah, no, you could. Yeah, that was much. That was a freaky visual.
But as good as that scene was, again, it made no sense in the narrative. Like suddenly he was in the bureau, then he was there in this big ostrich
he drops
house.
down the elevator or whatever, and then she's able to bring him back. And the house has got like chicken legs, and you're like, what the. Just like,
and he has to climb up the legs and then get in the front door of the house, and then he fights her. And again, like Jeff said, a very creepy, very nightmarish, disturbing character, but didn't really serve this story that well.
Yeah, who I did enjoy was the Thomas Hayden Church cameo. If you read the comics at all, Lobster Johnson is a pretty well-established character, and he shows up in the flashback, and then we see him again later. It's
such a ripoff of the Raiders of the Lost Ark scene, though. They went as far as to have the screamer from Raiders of the Lost Ark,
right?
In the same outfit. There was another actor there that looked just like him.
We had that Nazi outfit laying around, so
yeah. And I didn't even bother. Like, I got up and left at the credits. I'm like, I don't want to stay. I don't want to stay. I had enough.
So there's Mike, did you stay as well?
I did not stay for the credits. I was running for my car.
So you didn't see the scene so there's a mid-credit scene. Spoiler alert, Professor Broom dies. And he's drunk as hell in the graveyard. And Lobster Johnson comes over and they engage in this conversation. And Hellboy's just like, dude, I loved you. Can I see it? And he shows him the claw and he like loses his mind. But he was a ghost. And he kind of walked away. But there's an end credit with Baba Yaga talking to somebody off screen, and she makes some kind of deal with him to take out Hellboy, and in return, she'll make him alive again or something. And you don't know
a sequel.
Wow, in this day and age, they set up everything, as a sequel, because who knows? They also tease Abe Sapien.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't think that was a post credits.
That was the end. That was when you get into Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. You got the fight sequence. We didn't bring up Daniel Day Kim, who plays
as a were-jaguar.
He's a jaguar. Yeah. So the whole movie, he's like injecting himself to keep himself. So he's attacking Hellboy at every turn. Well, I thought we were supposed to be fighting monsters, not joining them. And meanwhile, he's a monster himself.
But why is he suppressing that? Apparently, he can control himself when he turns. So why wouldn't he want to kick ass earlier?
Right. I don't know. Yeah. And then we also bring in Alice Monaghan, who is she the Alice from the Alice in Wonderland? Is she supposed to be that character?
One of the most annoying screen characters I had in recent memory.
And she somehow seems shocked that she had the ability to push souls out of people when she's fighting them. I'm like, you got to be like 30-something years old. This never happened to you?
I'm like, yeah, don't bring Lewis Carroll. Don't bring Alice into this. Like, please leave her out of it.
Yeah, no, let's bring them all in. Yeah. And I guess Mike Mignola, who created him, had a little more say in this than he did in the Del Toro versions. There was a couple funny lines. At one point, the Blood Queen is trying to sway him, join me kind of together. And he's like, it'll never work out. I'm a Capricorn and you're fucking nuts. That to me was funny, but that was few and far between.
I have no qualms with David Harbour. Adrian Harbour. Yeah, I had no qualms with him. He just needed to be in a better movie. He was good. It was just a cataclysmic crap going on all around him.
Which is sad.
And I heard it didn't do well. We're recording this 3 days after it opened, but it only did $12 million in its first 2 days.
Well, I think, Mike, you said you had maybe 10 people in your theater?
Yep.
And I had maybe 25 at the most.
Yeah, I went on Thursday night. I probably had like 50, between 50 and 75.
They didn't know yet.
Yeah,
but see, that's the thing is I hate when the credits start, in this day and age where people could go and just piss on anything before they even see it. Sometimes a lot of people, it turns them off and they're like, oh, well, I went to Rotten Tomatoes and they got a 12%. I'm not going to go see this. But yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, like I said, I was in for the first third, but it did fall apart pretty quickly. And then I just wish I had secretly seen Missing Link instead.
This is probably the worst movie of the year.
Yeah, definitely the worst movie that we've seen for this show in the theater.
That's bad. Aquaman looks like a masterpiece.
Exactly. I would have rather have seen Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Are you serious?
That can be arranged.
I am. It was horrible.
And then they turned out that he's somehow King Arthur and the Blood Queen's child. But no, stop it.
If you want to come up with a tenuous tie between this and Horror Express, Merlin was very similar to Horror Express.
The Mad Monk.
Yeah. Rasputin.
Yes. They dig him up. They dig him up just long enough for him to expout some exposition, and then he crumbles away again.
And I doubt the makers of Horror Express would think that their movie would fare better against anything else. But this week it does.
Yeah, Scott was onto something.
Yeah, Horror Express is a masterpiece compared to this.
Yeah. The only other
kind of buckets? Did we buckets?
Soundtrack alone, I'll give it 3.
No, you're fired. You're out. This is a steaming turd of a movie.
That's being very generous.
That's being extremely
What are you going, 1, Mike?
generous.
You going 1 on this?
Oh, my God. 1? Okay, 1. I'm going to have to reach for 1. I mean, I was dying for it to end.
Well, that's sad.
I was as well.
That's sad.
1. Barely a 1. -1.
I think I'm at -1. Go see it and make up your own mind.
On -1, I will buy you popcorn if you go see this.
I'm going to go 1.5 just for that Baba Yaga scene.
Oh.
I liked that. I really did like that.
You're fired, too.
She was like out of the ring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But that was a very well done practical effect.
It had no point.
But it didn't. It didn't. Other than the fact that none of it had any point. It was just a mishmash of scenes thrown together. The whole Osiris Club, getting him over to the UK, there was no other reason to have that storyline than for him to be able to fight those giants.
This movie was so bad, we shouldn't even be dignifying it by talking about it.
We should just pretend it never happened.
It should just be 30 minutes of silence.
All right, let's go to the concession stand then. Let's end this right now and go to the concession stand.
Go watch the Ron Perlman one.
This flick is making me hungry.
It makes me want to flick my bick.
We should have gone to the drive-in where we could eat and flick to our heart's content.
Well, what are we waiting for?
Well, come on then. I'm going to have a pizza and popcorn and ice cream.
And I'm gonna have a burger with fries and a soft drink. Yum, yum, yum. This was a great idea.
Okay, we're back.
No, we're not back. It's so
We're still in silence.
It's horrible.
End it now. Do you know, so my Regal, I have enough points for a free movie ticket, which I said I'll do it. And she goes, well, it's opening weekend, so you're still going to have to pay $1.50. So I'm giving away 20,000 points, and I still have to pay for it. I said, no, thanks. I'll wait till next week. I mean, what?
Yeah, I had to do that for Shazam.
Really?
Pay $1.50. Yeah, and use my
That's
point.
bull.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
And it used to be 17,000 points for a movie ticket. Now it's 20.
Well, we're going to hit it much quicker than we used to with this
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh, no, I'm hitting a free movie ticket like every month now.
Yeah, and I'm getting a free $5 from Fandango every week upon week. That takes care of the convenience fee. What's that about? Convenience
I know.
fee.
Yeah, convenience.
Ordering online, $3.25. Shame on you, Fandango.
And especially when they force you to. Like I couldn't, when we did the advanced screening of Shazam, you had to buy your tickets through Fandango. I couldn't go into the theater because I did. And they're like, no, you have to go through the app. So I'm forced to pay that other convenience fee.
That's the way they get you.
Yeah.
All right, this next movie is our first listener request that we've granted. It's not the first listener request technically, but it's the first one that we've granted.
So we relented and said, all right, we'll watch it.
Yeah. Horror Express, 1972. You would think it's a Hammer movie because it's got all those Hammer components.
Pedigree, yeah.
Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing.
And Telly Savalas. Telly Savalas.
Does he go? How does he even get top billing on this?
He's in it
He goes
for
up
all
in the
of
last
10
5 minutes.
Yeah. I was talking to Scott, who is our listener who requested this. This is one of Scott's most feared films as a child.
Oh, geez.
Why? If you watch this on TV, it would have freaked me out. Like just the zombies themselves with the white eyes. And Jeff, this was almost a Bigfoot movie. Almost.
Well, they referred to him at one point, and I'm just like, oh, they referred to him as the missing link. And I said, we should have paired this up with the missing link next week. But then they went nowhere with that.
They went somewhere. Into the stratosphere they went with this.
Yeah, first of all, my DVD, I couldn't even believe my library had this, first of all. Second of all, my disc says widescreen. It's not widescreen.
My disc was like the worst transfer I could have seen on, even though it was on DVD, it was just.
It is available on Blu-ray, but not.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like the transfer is pretty impressive.
From what I've seen on YouTube, yes, the clips from the Blu-ray.
No, I like this. I really like this. It was different. There's no setup whatsoever. I mean, by the opening credits, I already found this frozen mummy and have him in a case, and he's on a train.
Yeah, where did they find him? In Mongolia? Is that where
they were all over the place? Manchuria. But then they're in Shanghai on the train, and I don't know. I just went with it. But you have Peter Cushing, like you said, and Christopher Lee. And I will say Peter Cushing. Now, I'm not a big horror fan, so I don't, those Hammer movies. And if you go through on my DVD, they had a bibliothèque of all of the movies that these guys have been in. And Peter Cushing's list was like 12 pages long between like 1940 and 1970.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
the guy was making like 5 movies a year. He seemed to be having fun with this,
which is surprising because the backstory is that he had just lost his wife. And he was going to drop out of the movie because it just happened. And Christopher Lee talked him into it to take his mind off things.
Wow.
It does look like he's having fun.
Yeah, and he's always playing such a stoic character, so I thought that was interesting. But you're right, you bring up that Rasputin, the hippie monk or whatever you want to.
Who immediately turns tail, turns allegiance from good to evil as soon as.
Oh, he couldn't. He was like bowing at the feet of Satan. He's like, yeah, God, teach me.
So the setup is Christopher Lee finds what they think is the missing link, which it is a caveman Bigfoot kind of a thing that's frozen in the ice.
Yeah, he's really nondescript. He
really is the missing link that they find. You find out later. They put him in a crate. They put him on a train to bring him back to civilization, and that's where all the hilarity ensues.
Hilarity. It was not intended to be hilarity. There's one scene where it's like, what's in the crate? And he goes, it's a fossil. He goes, and the guy's like, what's a fossil?
What's a fossil?
Well, I guess we didn't coin that phrase back in 1970.
And there's a pause, like rocks. As soon as they get this thing on the train, actually beforehand, it starts killing people.
They hadn't even left the station yet, and people are already dying.
There's a thief that tries to get into the box, and then he ends up dead with white eyeballs.
Yeah, the porter.
Porter in a box.
So they get the beast in the crate on the train. Everybody's clamoring to get into this crate. Peter Cushing especially, because he's Christopher Lee's rival archaeologist.
So he's like, he wants to know what's going on.
He wants to know what's in there.
Yeah.
So from inside the crate, the Bigfoot missing link wakes up and picks the lock to get himself out of the crate. And now he's
like 2 million years old, and yet he knows. First of all, my steaks take longer to defrost when I take them out of the freezer than this guy took. Like he's on the platform for 10 minutes, and he's already, he's got it all worked out.
He's waiting to get out. Yeah.
Are you telling me that an ape that lived 2 million years ago got onto that crate, killed the baggage man, and put him in there?
Yes, I am. It's alive. It must be.
So he starts killing people in the same fashion. They find dead bodies with no pupils and their eyeballs are white and bleeding. And every scene that the ape kills someone is pretty
intense.
Yeah, the blood's coming out of their eyes. It's just
the nose, the mouth, their ears.
And you've got that, early synthesizer soundtrack going.
Yeah.
So those scenes are pretty effective. And then about not even halfway, the ape gets shot. And you're like, what's going on? How is this movie going to continue now?
He dies. They kill him. Genius. Let's cut off. And all the people that are dying, immediately, Peter Cushing's like, let's lobotomize them. Let's take their heads off and see what's going on here.
Yep. And then
the only way that you can tell what's going on is by looking at the brains.
Good call, Peter Cushing. They take the head off, and it's like it's like a coconut shell. The sound that it makes when it's coming on and off the skull.
Right. It's like in Nightmare Before Christmas when Sally, and every now and again he opens up his head, the doctor.
Exactly. Yeah, it was exactly like that.
Yeah.
And that Tim Burton has seen Horror Express at some point.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So when they finally take the skull cap off on some of these autopsies that they're doing, you notice that the brain doesn't look that realistic. It's just a smooth ball, and you're like, oh, that's pretty lame. And then they say, oh, it's meant to look that way because the memories of these people have been wiped.
And I guess the wrinkles are created by memories is what they were implying.
And that's another way to go there. Well,
right.
This must mean that their memories are gone.
Right, correct, yeah. Which I thought was, that makes more sense now that he not only escaped, but then put the locks back on. And I'm like, this thing's 2 million years old. He doesn't even know what a lock is. But I guess as he kills people, he absorbs their knowledge and memory or whatever.
Yeah, because he absorbed the thief's knowledge, and that's how we knew how to pick the lock.
Right.
So, yeah, there you go.
He's like the world's first mutant.
Do you remember that mid-'80s movie, The Hidden, where the aliens jumping from body to body?
The Hidden. No, but I remember that movie called The Thing. That's right up there. And this had a lot of kind of X-File DNA to it as well, because you really had this kind of faith versus scientific fact thing going on. The Rasputin monk was just like, he was a little too gung-ho.
So the ape is killed by the inspector. And from that point on, the alien that you find out later, which was living in the body of the ape, jumps from the ape to the inspector.
The animal that you shot was only the host. It's alive in someone on this train.
So for the second half of the movie, the inspector is the alien. But for some reason, his hand turns into an ape hand.
It made no sense. It made no sense. Or did this thing being in that guy in the monster's body for so long turn him to look like that? Like if he kept it, because it was a parasite, basically, what it comes down to. It's like venom.
So we have to wait until the end of the movie, and here's the big reveal. The alien finally gives the exposition that you've been waiting for. Like, what is this thing? And then he explains that, nope, the Bigfoot missing link was just kind of a red herring. That this alien came to Earth with a bunch of others just like him, and they don't really have physical bodies. They're like energy forces.
Where do you come from?
Another galaxy. I came with others like myself. I was left behind. An accident. I survived in protozoans, fish, vertebrates. The history of your planet is part of me. Pull the trigger, and you will end it.
So they've come to Earth, and by accident, he's abandoned on Earth. I'm like, what kind of accident would happen that you left him behind?
That happened to the extraterrestrial. Hey, what happened to Bob? I don't know. I thought
it's like Home Alone. Yeah, they're going back home. I wonder if his name was Kevin, this alien, as they're going like 2 million light years later. Kevin!
We love Kevin.
So he explains that he's been surviving by going into the protozoa, and then fish, and then creatures as they evolve, and finally into man. So within his knowledge, he holds the entire history of the earth and the answers to curing all diseases, everything.
Yeah.
So that's how he's trying to talk his way out of being killed by Christopher Lee.
And they see all these memories in his blood sample, which are like little photographs.
No, it's eye fluid.
Oh, the eye fluid. That's what it was. Yeah, so they look at the eye fluid and son of a bitch, there's a floating brontosaurus in there. Yeah. Oh, wait, now look.
Yeah, evidently he was looking at a book of animated, of drawings of dinosaurs. That's how he saw them.
Right. And of course, they were able to figure out the last thing he saw was the inspector shooting him. So they're like, wait, this thing's still killing. But yeah, Telly Savalas comes out of nowhere. And he's just like a pimp. Like
as a Cossack officer. This is the thing.
What is that outfit he's wearing?
At first, I wasn't sure who this guy was because he's in the train station, like sleeping with a woman right next to the two guys that are on the telegraph, right? Suddenly he wakes up and there's this woman next to him. And he's like, oh, I guess we have to go because the train's getting here in 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden, all these guys wake up in the
14 minutes.
Yes, Your Honor. That's what it says here. Doesn't say it in words, Your Honor, but in code. It's like another language.
I know about telegraphs, little papa. I know about trains. I know about electrical currents. On your feet, everybody. Outside, full pack.
So he's a Cossack officer with no discernible accent whatsoever. He might as well be saying when he gets on the train, "Who loves you, baby?"
Which we didn't get at all. Oh, he just eats up the scenery.
He does. And he's killed almost. He doesn't even put up a fight.
No.
At least get in a punch.
Captain Kazan, which is just a great name.
Kazan with an exclamation point.
There you go. I did like the fact that the inspector, when he was infected, there's a porter writing a SOS message or whatever. He throws the porter out the window, but doesn't throw away the note. So they find the note. It's like, you stupid idiot. It was fun. It was good to watch. It was some 70s goodness going on there.
It was. And I like that how they actually did away with the monster at the end. They get all the survivors in the very last car, along with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. They catch the caboose and let the rest of the train careen off a cliff. And that's just what you do, I guess, in Russia.
Right,
some of your tracks just lead right to a steep drop.
Right, so they all would have died anyways.
And the caboose just makes it. So they're teetering on the edge and looking down as the thing explodes. And apparently this alien has his own theme song that he whistles throughout the train.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah, we knew he was coming. Yeah, Scott Manning, you were one sick and twisted individual. That's all I got to say about that. It was good. Was fun. We enjoyed it more than Hellboy.
Yeah, we did.
That was across the board right there.
And that Grand Moff Tarkin in it.
Yeah. You had Grand Moff Tarkin and Dooku. Dooku.
I wonder how much Ewan McGregor loved saying that. Dooku.
I will never join you,
Dooku.
There is a great scene, I think, when Peter Cushing, he has an assistant, the older woman, and he needs her help. And he goes there, he goes, "Miss Jones, I need your help." And she looks over and he's hanging out with this chick, this blonde spy. And she just looks back and she goes, "Well, at your age, I'm not surprised."
I was convinced that this woman was Alfred Hitchcock's sister. It's like the female version of Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh yeah, she was very handsome. Let's put it that way.
A sturdy woman, yes. So how many buckets would we offer Horror Express? I think we would probably give it more this week than we would normally, just because of
what it's up against.
Yeah.
I'll go 3.5.
I'll go 3.
I would say Hellboy has spoiled me from cinema for life. So I don't even know if I can rate anything anymore. I would go 3.
3. Okay. Fair enough. I never in a million years would have ever watched this movie. So
yeah, thank you, Scott.
Yes. Good call.
And so maybe we should bring up our confessional right now.
Confessionals.
And I don't know how we're not going to answer this with Hellboy, but maybe we can.
I think this question wrote itself.
Yeah, this is totally inspired by Hellboy. What do we think is the least necessary reboot/remake that we have ever seen? And I didn't have to think much about it.
Oh, I jumped right on it. Yeah. I know exactly where I was going.
Mine might be obvious, so I'll go first if you'll allow.
Okay.
I'm going to say the 1998 Godzilla.
Okay.
Completely unnecessary, angered me, to no end.
Because it should not have been called Godzilla. It should have been called the giant monster that attacked New York.
Or Jurassic Park Takes Manhattan.
Right. Although, I do enjoy that movie. I hated it as well. When it came out of the theater, I was not. I immediately, years later, when it showed up and my son got involved in Godzilla, we refer to it as the fake Godzilla.
Oh, totally! It's totally fake. It's not even Godzilla.
But it's still it's a product of its time. You look at it's such a 98 that came out.
Yeah, Roland Emmerich and what was his partner's name?
Devlin.
They were flying high on the hog off of Independence Day. And
not so much though, because the running joke in that is that the mayor and his assistant were straight up spoofs of Roger Ebert and
Gene Siskel, who had panned Independence Day. To the point where they got two actors that looked like them as well.
Just so they could make them bumbling idiots, because he was so incensed that these two gentlemen, who were the premier movie critics of the day, so Siskel and Ebert go to the movies every weekend. You sit around, you wait for these guys to tell you, was this movie good or was it not?
But if you're going to put them in your movie and lambast them, make it a good movie. Don't give them more fuel, But no, I didn't enjoy Godzilla. I was seething in the theater while I was watching it.
Matthew Broderick.
If you remember, there was a big reveal of what Godzilla looked like because they weren't telling you up front. You had to go to see the movie on opening weekend.
The trailers were all about size matters, and they would put these giant banners up with just life-size eyes or a foot. So
you never knew what it looked like. And it ended up being like a giant iguana. That's basically what it was.
A marine iguana at that, because he had some cool swimming sequences.
He did, but yeah.
Which I think that the real Godzilla has kind of imitated after the fact.
Yes, he has.
Once or twice.
Don't get me off track here. I want to hate this. So that's my answer. Godzilla, 1990.
I'll back that up. Yeah.
Total Recall.
Oh, good one.
Which is, it just didn't have any of the charm of the first one. It was, it was maybe taking itself a little too seriously.
It took itself way too seriously.
Yeah, it just didn't need to do it.
No. Who was that, by the way? Farrell?
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. I don't remember who directed it, though. But yeah, it was just unnecessary. You are correct.
Yeah, you can't take Arnold. As good as Total Recall is, I would say 60 to 70% of that is Arnold. He's tied up
absolutely.
Yeah. You can't take him out of it. He's missing. It's a huge hole.
Well, the director, too. Because he also had done...
Paul Verhoeven.
So you had RoboCop and you had Starship Troopers. So he's got like his own little subgenre of these movies. They have a very specific look and feel to them. Goofy, a little tongue-in-cheek. But that Colin Farrell was not good. Twofer. Ooh. And they're both by Tim Burton. Planet of the Apes, which we've brought up on the show before numerous times. Just absolutely unnecessary. Mark Wahlberg, horrible. And his Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, unnecessary.
Yeah,
both of them absolutely unnecessary. And Willy Wonka actually had Christopher Lee in it as Willy Wonka's dad. Do we need to go back and flashback why this character was the way he was, that his dad was a dentist and denied him candy? So now it's unnecessary.
It's the original, again, so indelible with millions of people. Gene Wilder is just nailed it as Willy Wonka, and nobody ever could take that away from him. And why you would even attempt to do a version?
No, that was just it was a vanity. Both of those movies to me were a paycheck, and especially the Willy Wonka was just a vanity thing for Johnny Depp. Ooh, what kind of weird wig can I put on? Oh, how can I talk this? Am I weird? Am I not weird? Should I be talking to kids? So unnecessary. So let's go the other route, which is best reboot.
You see, I'm not prepared for this.
I had a thought because I brought it up before, and I'll just throw it out here. The original came out in 1951, but the John Carpenter's 1982 thing was probably one of the
that's my
reboots, remakes.
Sure, I'll go for that.
So, and there was a little bit of that in that Horror Express. I felt
there
was a little DNA.
But if you guys have never seen The Hidden, I think it was from '86. It's more like The Thing is more like a shape-shifting alien, but The Hidden was actually a parasite going from one body to the other. So this was more in line with Horror Express. It was by Carol Coe, so I think it was the first movie they came out with post-Terminator.
Really? The Hidden? Yeah. Who else is in that? Anybody?
Oh, I don't even remember. It's been so long since I saw it.
Okay, interesting. So, Hellboy. hell no.
There's our headline right there.
Hellboy, hell no. And I hate saying it. I hate doing that. I say it numerous times, which no one ever sets out to make a bad movie, but there's no cohesion to it.
No, there's not.
No.
That's sad. It's too bad. So,
just go back and watch your DVD copies of the original too.
Yeah, and Perlman actually, they did a couple animated versions of Hellboy as well, which Perlman and what's her name, who played Liz, did the voices for. So there's a
Thelma
couple.
Blair, right?
Thelma Blair. There you go. Yeah.
So let's talk about next week's episode.
Next week. Alrighty, boy, we just this episode just flew by. We couldn't talk about this fast enough.
I think this is going to be a Jeff-centric episode.
If the missing link can give me my Bigfoot fix, I'm happy.
Yeah, I know. Jeff have you ever talked at length about your Bigfoot fascination on the show?
Not without being ridiculed. I think the last time it was brought up was when there was 5 of us, and the conversation went nowhere really quick. So I did find out this weekend, listening to NPR, that there is a Bigfoot musical, and I need to go see that. I do need to go see that.
So we will be watching Missing Link next week,
which is a stop-motion animation movie by Leica Studios.
Yeah, who brought you Paranorman, Coraline,
Kubo, and the Two Strings. And then what are we going to pair this up with?
Ooh, what are we going to pair this up with, Jeff? Tell us.
I believe that we are going to go down the road of the Bigfoot episode of $6 Million Man, baby.
Yeah.
How can we not? How can we not? We could have gone Harry and the Hendersons. We could have gone Legend of Boggy Creek. We could have gone down some of those other Bigfoot roads, but no, we are going with the classic.
Now, this is a twofer, this episode.
This is
part
2
1
episodes.
and part 2. So it is like a feature in itself.
And this is the Andre the Giant Bigfoot, not the Ted Cassidy
not
Lurch.
The Lurch.
Yes, which we did discuss that there were 2 different. I vaguely remember, and you did bring this up, that along with the 12-inch $6 Million Man action figure, that there was a Bigfoot action figure.
And it was very much like the Chewbacca figure, where there was no articulation.
No, he was just straight arms
went up
straight
and
legs.
down. Yeah, the legs went up and down. That was it.
Mm.
And I think maybe he had the crush action where you could put the arms out and then they would go together.
Yeah, I think he came with a boulder or something. Did he not?
Yeah, he did.
There you go.
So he could crush Steve Austin's head if you wanted him to do it.
Oh, like the Mountain and the Viper.
Oh, I'm still recovering from that sound effect.
Oh, that was. I actually stayed up way past my bedtime in order to watch just that last 5 minutes of that.
And the horrific scream that his sister makes, that just sells it even more.
And from what I understand, that was a one-take thing. That was like the end of the day, and they just felt, all right, we're losing the light. Just scream and get it over with. Yeah, that's.
And for like 10 previously on Game of Thrones after that, you see that scream over and over and over again.
That's crazy. Yeah. All right, Missing Link next week. I'm in. Yeah.
All right.
And 2 weeks, Endgame, 2 weeks from now.
Let's hope we can get tickets because they're sold out everywhere. I could buy mine online for $1,500. Who's paying that? Who's paying $1,500 for a freaking movie ticket?
Nobody.
Stop yourself.
All right, gentlemen.
That's it. We're out.
You're out.
Bye, babe. Bye.
I know about telegraphs, little papa.
Loves you, baby. You're beautiful.